Today, I think you're hopefully learn how to better use AI automation when it comes to content creation. Like everyone talks about AI slop, especially when it comes to, hey, just putting out AI generated content. Yet at the same time, you do see AI content out there that's really, really strong. So how do you actually use AI automation in the content creation process while still maintaining some control?
We're actually going to talk about a system that you can download and get use out of right away. You're going to get some amazing value by going and downloading the template. And then inside the template library, in just over a year, Chase Hannegan has grown his following from 0 to 200,000 followers across YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok using this content ideation innate workflow that we'll be covering and giving away today. He is the founder of Chase AI, where he helps companies replace busy work with automation, AI agents, and systems that actually move the needle. Do you have a favorite workflow on that?
You don't need to sit in a classroom for 4 years learning Python syntax. You just don't.
Okay, what about the ideation side? What systems do you specialize in? What things do you primarily teach and train? Is there a favorite use case for RAG? Attention is one of the most valuable resources and everyone's fighting for it. So how do you optimize for it? Chase, so awesome to have you on the podcast. For anybody that is listening to this podcast episode, we have a special thing for you that we're going to be doing differently here. We're going to be talking about one of the best workflow innate systems that Chase has built, and we're going to be making this available to you at the end of the podcast so that you can get up and running using his system, all based around content ideation. So Chase, I want to kick it to you. What are the people going to be learning by going through this episode today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dylan. Yeah, today I think you're hopefully learn how to better use AI automation when it comes to content creation. It's an area that's really exploding right now, but tons of different outcomes, right? Everyone talks about AI slop, especially when it comes to, hey, just putting out AI generated content. Yet at the same time, you do see AI content out there that's really strong. So how do you actually use AI automation in the content creation process while still maintaining some control and making sure you aren't just a slop generation machine? Because it's harder than it looks.
I think because AI is so easy to get into right now that it's easy to make slop. But like with any skill set, like I can give my 1-year-old a paintbrush and I can give an artist a paintbrush. One's going to be lovely but slop filled, and the other one is going to be just lovely. Love to dive into the system, talk about it. And one thing I want to address here is going online to ideate is very powerful, but you can get distracted by the AI algorithms, and then you wake up 7 hours later and you wonder what happened to that period of your life. So excited for this journey. Let's talk about this most important piece, ideation. And how did you do it manually? And then if you want to talk to me about the systems that you've now built in with innate to replace that important but difficult task with automations.
I think manually was what you're talking about, where you just end up doom scrolling for hours and you tell yourself you're researching ideas, but in reality, you just wasted 4 hours doing nothing. And again, you are at the whim of the algorithm. And a lot of it depends on the niche you're into in terms of content. And AI especially, I think it's difficult because there's something new every 30 seconds and everything is overhyped. And so you have no idea what's actually worth it to talk about and what's not. So there's a lot of data you need to filter through across a lot of different platforms, right? Should you just be on Twitter all day? Should you just be looking at stuff on Reddit? Is it YouTube? And you can't be everywhere at once. So manually, it was essentially just doom scrolling and hoping I found some inspiration that way. And I figured, hey, how about we automate this stuff? Because you have to do everything manually first, right? To really get the most out of automation. So after doing it manually for way too long, I was like, okay, I know who I like. I know whose content I like. I know where most of the ideas are coming from. What if I just automate this across these big 4 platforms, which for me was Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, and then just like a general catch-all with Perplexity. And so I knew what the sources were. And then all it does now is this automation scrapes data from those sources and those specific content creators. It then creates a report based on all that data saying, hey, here's what's going on in the last 24 hours. Here's news that's trending. And then here's like actual links to the source material. And then I take it a step further where it then takes that information and then writes content scripts for me. So, okay, here's a hook, here's the body, here's the call to action. And the idea isn't to just speak to that exactly and just read off a script, but it gets you somewhere in a 50, 60, 70% solution rather than starting at 0 every day.
What I love about this also is if you're trying to play the game of content creation and build a brand or just build something online, and one of the things that are most important that will serve you is being able to create a channel that is valuable, but you have to prime yourself every day and remember that this thing is important. To me, I was thinking about it more from a my mind drifted off a little bit because I've been really big into home assistant, home automation kind of stuff, is I'd love to have the speaker turn on as I'm waking up. It's like, good morning, Dylan. You have your report of content creations. There is a new hot thing coming out of Google right now. It's called Nano Banana Super Pro. You get cracking. The day is young. That's where my mind went in it. But I love the idea of getting these daily reports. I haven't built out a daily report system, something I need to actively go in and look at. So we talked about what the system is. You maybe will open it up, take a look at it real quick, walk us through a couple of things. We can talk about some stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
And by the way, this is my first time doing a screen share on the podcast. If people find it interesting and valuable, please comment down below. Let me know that you are. We will do more of these. If you don't comment that you don't like these, we may or may not do less of them. We'll see.
This is the guinea pig.
Yes, we are testing things right now. And this is a feedback loop. It would be really helpful to find out.
So here's a look at this behemoth. And we'll zoom in some more so you can get a better idea of what's actually important. But big picture, again, what's the whole purpose of this whole thing? The whole purpose is it's going to look at all the trending data across different social media platforms, and it's going to create two things. One, that daily report that tells us, hey, here's what's actually trending. Here's the general articles and their sources. And then B, the actual content scripts, so you don't have to start from zero. So as you can see, it's divvied up into 4 big sections. And the first section we have up here is YouTube. And I'll just go in detail on the YouTube part because they all follow the same process. So it's on a daily trigger. You could have it run every even 12 hours if you wanted to. And so first thing, it just gets the data. Now for a lot of these, we use Appify, which is just a marketplace for web scrapers, but there are some built-in N8N native tools that do it already, like the YouTube one, right? So it just gets the videos. And then in terms of what videos it gets, we just filter it based on the length at first, and then based also on a query. So in this case, it's N8N. This could also be AI. This could be whatever your particular niche is. So it's the same as going into YouTube and just typing in a search bar, whatever that query is. And we also specify the length because we don't really care about shorts as much. We're more looking for long-term stuff. From there, we then get the transcripts, right? We just find the videos, we get the transcripts, and then we do a transcript analysis. So that is using just a basic LLM chain. In this case, I'm using OpenAI, and it's just a mini model. It has a pretty long system prompt, right? We get pretty detailed as for what we actually want. But essentially, okay, summarize it, tell me what's important, and then figure out if there's something I would actually care about and make content on. From there, it then goes into 2 places. We track that inside of Airtable, but then it gets sent over here to the report generation. And if you look at this automation at large, that process is repeated for every single social media platform, right? Find the platform, right? Reddit, Twitter, Perplexity, do the analysis, and then push that analysis down the line to the report.
And the Reddit, Twitter, Perplexity, are those more, there's 2 buckets it looks like. One are content creators that I want to keep abreast of and what they're doing. And the other ones are those news sources looking for trending new AI topics and or other topics?
Essentially. So for the Reddit scraper, it's specifically looking at the N8N subreddit, for example. So this is more like Reddit's kind of interesting because you'll get topics there that are from people who aren't really content creators, but oftentimes have really good insights, right? These are like real users. And then the Perplexity section is really just a catch-all, right? What's some big news stuff that maybe is going on that I didn't find from the creators?
Got it. So I'm looking at now 3 buckets because I was thinking of in 2 buckets. One is content creators. The other one is news and ideas like Nano Banana Super Pro. And the other one is communities of people that are like jiving around a topic.
Yeah, the Reddit stuff is almost like the grassroots stuff popping up.
Or astroturfing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So for people that are listening to this podcast, right now we are looking at an N8N workflow that is available for you that Chase is going to be putting up in the future into the template library for us. There's 4 major categories that are basically pulling data from YouTube longs, Reddits, scraping out, I believe, Twitter and Perplexity. We're moving that through into a digest report that is being processed and uploaded into Airtable and also sending it as a report via a Google Gmail node.
Yeah, it just goes right into my email inbox every morning, but you could have it essentially go wherever. And then we have, again, the content brainstorming piece. And the cool thing about the content brainstorming piece is I don't just rely on AI for this. There's a really good content creator on YouTube. His name's Callaway. He's all about, hey, here's how you essentially do storytelling in social media. So I took a bunch of his videos, through all the transcripts inside of Gemini and was like, hey, come up with a system prompt based on sort of his frameworks and fundamentals. And using that, it helps me come up with the hooks, the general storyline, all that. And again, the big value add here isn't that I got a script and I'm going to read off it. The big value add is that I don't have to start from zero every day. Because when it comes to content creation, if a lot of it is a race against the clock, especially if you're trying to go for a lot of short form and for YouTube. And if I'm spending 4 hours every day just trying to figure out what to create, like I'm not going to be in a good place.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what's awesome about this. What I like about this too is that you say, okay, not only am I going to take this information that's important from these people, I'm actually going to, there's a terminology called copy and paste versus copy with taste. And so what you're doing is you're copying out what's going on, wherever it is, and you're adding the with taste part of going, how do I create this into a format that I find to be pleasing? You're putting your own spin on it, whether it's Callaway or anything else. And so I love this system. I think it's really neat on the backside of it. Now, you were saying before that, does this upload a vector store of your knowledge so it learns and understands how you write scripts, or?
This goes just directly into Airtable. I don't have any sort of RAG functionality built on that, which would be a thing. For me personally, I'm not a script person with my content, although I like having the script generated to give me something to think of. All my stuff tends to be off the cuff. So that'd be wasted effort for me personally. But yeah, I like the system because it's very flexible, both in terms of, hey, where you're getting the data from and also how you filter it, right? For Twitter, for example, it filters based on not just the ideas, but also how many likes it's getting and stuff. So you're not getting too much noise.
Yeah. And let's talk about this from a results perspective, right? There's a couple different metrics, right? There is overall subscribers, and then there's overall content produced. And a lot of people look at subscribers as the metric, but really that's kind of getting on the scale. It's not a proactive measurement. A lot of it is content creation. So can you talk to me about like how many videos do you create in a week, in a month, or whatever? And then talk to me about like how many subscribers you have so people can understand the value of the system through the output that it generates.
Yes. And so in terms of subscribers across YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, it's a little over 200,000, I think, at this point. And that came over about a year. So I started at the very tail end of 2024 with no content creation experience whatsoever. And I barely post on my private social media account. So that was definitely a big jump for me. But you're totally right. It's more about the process and the systems. And it's really hard to not get too focused on like the subscriber and viewer count, especially at the beginning for people. So in terms of the volume that I shoot for, I try to do 3 pieces of content a day, split between like short form primarily because it's easier to push them out. But I want to do, the goal is like 2 to 3 long form YouTube videos a week. And so that's 20 pieces of content a week, which is no small amount, especially when you're in, I think, in more of a technical space.
Yeah. Is there anybody that doesn't know, if you're like, oh, this is great, I built this workflow, now I'm going to show people how to build this workflow, and then halfway through the recording, it stops working because it errors up for a completely different reason. You're like, but I'm in the middle of recording. That's not fair.
I can't start this over. It's already 7 p.m. at night.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, okay, let me just.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be back. Yeah. So I love it. It's good to know how much content. So again, 200,000 subscriber in a year by posting 2 to 3 pieces of content a day. When you're making this content, so you're getting this report generated, do you then say, okay, cool, here's a report of the ones I like, number 1, number 2, and number 5. I'm going to make content on this as a short, long, or whatever. When you're going to make this content, talk to me the process. You now got this report. What do you do from the reporting into the actual creating of the content? What does that look like? Is there any other automation?
So the report gives me definitely the ideas and more so the trends, right? Because I'm also saying, hey, if yesterday 10 people posted about this particular new end-to-end update or automation, hey, and they have a ton of views coming in, then I know that's something the audience is going to actually like, right? So it's almost pre-approves my ideas to an extent. So I know the idea. And then I look at usually the script, and really I'm focused on the hook because unfortunately people are going to watch the first 3 seconds and 90% of people won't watch any further in that. So on one hand, I have the report, which gives me the hook, but I also have my own custom Claude project, which has a similar system prompt to that script generator, but allows me to go back and forth in terms of figuring out the hooks I want to do. Beyond that, it's very much off the cuff kind of vibes based on how I use the tool myself, because I don't want to sound too scripted. And at the same time, I also don't want to watch other people's content too much on the same thing. So it doesn't come across as almost like a copycat type video. So it's a weird line to trend where it's like, hey, what's everyone else doing? But putting your own spin on it.
Yeah. And some people, like I am, if you look at any of my TikTok content, I'm an off the cuffer. I will just rant at a camera as we're doing right now with no bullet points. It is useful though, especially if you're getting started and you're overcoming imposter syndrome or anything else. Having to say, I just say these words in front of the camera, it might be awkward, but I'm getting through it by just looking at the camera. That's great. I will say though, one of the lessons I got that's really powerful is that when you have a framework to communicate through, say, storytelling, like AIDA framework, which is attention, interest, desire, action, that is a framework to follow. If you have these bullet points, the opening hook that's going to be around topic or whatever, you can then rant much more coherently, because then you can move through this framework with freedom without feeling constricted, and it comes through a lot more humanistically. So I'm a big bullet point fan as well, especially if you have a framework that you're running someone through. And so, yeah, I get it from that perspective. So you get this script, you come up with the bullet points, you have a Claude code that you can go back and forth with until you're happy. So it's more of this interactive, real-time social media manager coach. You come up with that. You then sit down and record. What do you then do? You turn on OBS? What happens?
Yeah, so I use OBS because I'm cheap and it's free. And yeah, at that point, then it's just sending it and saying the same lines 30 times before it actually comes out the right way and you don't stutter. And then it's just a matter of just knocking out the content at that point. Most of the time is spent on, frankly, the hook. Sadly, the nature of the game, especially in short form. And short form's interesting because you almost have to come up with all these like tips and tricks to keep the viewer actually watching, which is almost the opposite of YouTube, which is why YouTube long form is so nice, because you actually have sort of the room to express your ideas, and the audience is also probably willing to give you at least a couple minutes to get to your point. So the ideation process tends to be a little different and more involved in YouTube, but the content stuff is interesting. And I think it just becomes more interesting in today's day and age. And you're seeing it a lot more on like the client, because I also run my own agency, like the client work. There's just so much demand for the content stuff because everyone realizes how important it is, right? Especially in terms of the personal branding type deal. And for automation, I think automation as of today, early 2026, I think the ideation portion and coming up with these frameworks is actually where you get the biggest value add versus, hey, I found an automation that makes YouTube shorts for me. Looks cool. Does it actually convert? Maybe on the margins, there's people who manage to get that to work. But I think for most people, I don't know if that's the value play.
It can. I've seen it work with people. There's a couple of brands I know that get away with it only because of unique situations. It does work. The most valuable thing, if you truly want to be a content creator, is a lot of people say, I don't know what to do. I don't know the ideas to come up with. And the step one is figure out what you want to make content on, make it as easy as possible for you to know exactly what to do, lower the friction as much as possible when you're recording. So if you can't do OBS, hire somebody on Fiverr or do a thing where you get someone in that's just set up your environment for you. And then, what can you do to make that content? There's a bunch of different things that you can do to make that content, but figure out a way that I call it self-leverage. It's how do you get leverage on yourself to put yourself into a container to create something. So whether that's developing in automations or creating content, both of it is deep work and you kind of have to settle into it and avoid all the deadly algorithms that will steal all your time. Besides that, now that you get the content, how do you post the content? Do you use in workflows? What do you do?
So I have in workflows, but to be totally honest, I do most of it manually. Yeah, I'm still actually light in that regard. But I post on short form. It's only on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And I use CapCut for editing. So essentially it's a one button press to do that and push at those. So it essentially is automated inside of my editing system to an extent.
Do you do your own editing?
Yes.
Okay.
I subscribe to, I think, your same theory, which is like lowest friction as possible. I feel like if I was huge, right? I'm an operation, I have millions of subs. Sure, I'd probably hire a video editor at that point. But A, I want to learn the skills. And B, I think in this space, especially, I don't think the audience is necessarily drawn to fancy editing. I don't think that's what's really pushing the boundaries. I think there's a very low bar you have to pass, a very low bar. But beyond that, I think it's very much like, all right, like what's the value here? What are we talking about? What are you actually bringing to the table versus me paying some guy to do some fancy editing?
There's different ways to optimize content creation, right? And a lot of people, especially for technical users, hey man, just give me the sauce. And that's why we're experimenting with something different. This podcast is what's some sauce that we can give away that would be useful. Like this ideation generation is huge. As someone who makes content, It's a big piece of the puzzle. So how do we do that? Then talk about some of the things behind this. So we're going a little bit deeper. Hey, upfront value. If you want to hang out and listen to two dudes talk about why the importance of content creation is going to change your life and change your business because influence matters in this day of eyeball attention grabbing stuff, great. And then also, I think a couple of key pieces that are valuable for anybody that's really eager and still listening to this podcast is the fact that there is a value of needing to learn how to cook in your own kitchen. I come from the background of running my own food business. I did very well. Started small, I had a number of employees, sold that. One of the biggest things that I thought was super important was learning how to cook in your own kitchen. And there's two different kitchens that we're cooking in right now in this modern day and age. One is the kitchen of Hannegan, which is the ability to create your own automations, your workflows, understanding how things get done, vector memory, and stuff like that. It's very important, especially if you are either going to run an AI agency or if you are a business owner and you want to learn how to automate your business to create more freedom. The second kitchen is content creation, which is if you want to be a personal brand and you want to grow influence online, then part of this is you need to get good at creating value. Now that is the power of storytelling. If you're making workflows, that's great, or whatever else thing that you're doing. But then also this whole editing structure and knowing how to cook in your own kitchen by editing it and kicking it out the door. There's different ways that you can optimize. I went to Vid Summit, which is the professional YouTubers conference. Bro, there is levels to this game that like I am, woo! Like people go really deep, and I realize that this is an endless game and you're optimizing for how can I transmit value to you. Part of this is the hook. Part of this is if you do short form edit cuts to stop with eye fatigue. There's people that look at retention graphs on the back end to see where the bumps and spike are, that think about why do these people leave? Like it's all these different things that are, it's a whole game of right now. Attention is one of the most valuable resources and everyone's fighting for it. So how do you optimize for it? And to Chase's point, this was the best way to optimize is give you something free that's valuable that you can utilize that he actually uses in his own business to actually materially change his life by going from 0 to 200,000 subscribers. So it's a valuable piece of the equation. So I'm going to step off of my soapbox and rant about why this is so important and say, besides this, Chase, is there anything else that's coming up for you around content creation that you think is like a valuable insight or something that you think you want to share with maybe someone who's more technical that wants to learn to make content?
The biggest thing with content creation is just the sort of mindset you need at the beginning. And I think it's almost a little harder for technical people to jump into it to an extent, because I think they tend to have a much more perfectionist mindset, where at the beginning, what we alluded to before, is you very much have to divorce yourself from the outcomes at the start. And you just have to put your head down for 100 videos and realize how bad they're all going to be. Part of that, again, which an automation like this helps, is not only are you bad, not only the video is bad at the beginning, you're horribly slow at doing these things, right? You're horribly slow at coming up with ideas, horribly slow at coming up with hooks, horribly slow at just executing. And so having some sort of automations on the margins, at least, that can reduce the friction, because the friction is the biggest thing that it takes people too long and then their videos get 0 views, right? You combine those things together. That's why everybody quits. That's why even businesses quit. There's tons of businesses who just don't even post nearly enough. And if you look at all your favorite creators, with few exceptions, they've been posting hundreds and hundreds of stuff for a pretty long period of time before they actually saw any turnaround. So I think the mindset's the biggest thing. And then again, anything you can use to reduce the friction, like this automation, the posting automations, you should be leaning on at the start just to give you any advantage.
Yeah. And if you're looking at this, if you really are genuinely serious about like leveling your things up, whether it's innate or the content creation, is if you could focus on those input variables, right? Like how long does it take you to make a video, and the video that is X amount of quality? If you can keep the quality up and reduce the time to make the video by taking out these different manual tasks, how long does it take to make a thumbnail? And what does that look like? And there's a bunch of strategies behind that. Optimizing those things with those to lower that friction as much as possible. Then it gets, the quicker you can make the content and the more valuable it is, the better you're going to see as a return. And it is a thing of kind of standing up on class, in front of class, like in your underwear or whatever. It's going online and making content. And then people are looking at you, commenting on whatever it might be, your looks, your content, the sound of your voice. It's a thing that it's a forcing function for growth. And
it's very cringy. It's very cringy to post content at first. It's extremely embarrassing at the beginning. I remember when I first started posting, I was definitely afraid that people, my friends in my group chat, would see it. You'll just get roasted forever. But ironically, your kind of like mediocrity at the beginning almost saves you, because your videos will be so poor, nobody will watch them. But on the flip side, if your video did so well, your friends see it, you're actually doing okay.
Yeah, here's the thing. Any response is a good response. You're getting feedback because you look at all this feedback, and all this thing I try to say for anybody that looks at that, and a moniker that I've tried to live by for myself is take the lessons, leave the emotion. So if you do get a cringy comment, someone says, I get feedback on this podcast. And so I'm like, how do we make this better? Cool, great feedback. What can we do? And so do I want to sit there and beat myself up and say, woe is me? This is feedback. What can we do? One, is this my target audience that we're making content around? Is this person's input valid for who they are, right? If it is, then okay, what can I do with this to get better at this stuff? Whether it's a better thumbnail, or a hook, delivering more value, being consistent, being shorter. It's all useful information to help you improve. And I tell you, like, of the dead internet theory, with all of the internet going away because of the AIification of the entire world, I think social media is one of the few places where you have your authentic self show up in a format is a way to actually build a real community. But part of it is like investing a piece of your soul that takes some time, but highly valuable, man. Can you talk to me about, from making this content, has there been a thing that's happened in your life or in your business or relationship that's formed from it by making these connections online? Can you talk about something that's happened from that?
In terms of the business, obviously the inbound lead generation purely from social media has been pretty life-changing, that for sure. I think the coolest thing has been, I also run the online community on school with people who are essentially trying to jump, like my primary audience is, non-technical people who are trying to jump into the AI space, ready to run their own AI agency. So I think the best connections, the coolest connections have been made there, just guiding people on that path, showing them, hey, here's what I did, and you can do it too. We had one student who joined pretty much immediately after getting laid off. He'd been in the same job for almost 20 years. And Hail Mary was like, hey, I'm going to try this AI thing. Like, I'm interested. It's cool. I'm not a developer. I have no technical background. But within the first month, already had signed a client for a 5K monthly retainer. And like seeing those journeys is really cool. Because I think honestly, the coolest thing about AI is the doors it's open for people who aren't technical. Like, this world was not open to you if you did not have a CS degree, right, 5 years ago, or you didn't go to boot camp. It just wasn't realistic. And then today, right, like, you don't need those things. Really, you still need some technical know-how, but you can pick it up along the way if you're curious and you're willing to learn. You don't need to sit in a classroom for 4 years learning Python syntax. You just don't.
100%. Like, I completely agree with you, is that you used to run like a super high tech VR multiplayer user studio. I built like space robots for NASA and government contact, all this crazy stuff. And I had like technical CTOs, and I've gone through a number of them in my career. And part of this was like, when you run a company and you have a technical founder or whatever, there's always this thing that you maybe don't have full autonomy and full control because you're trying to enroll them on why it should be built or done this way or whatever those things are going to be. And so coming from that world, I was technical coder and that kind of stuff, but not as technical as those people. When I got rid of that business and I jumped into AI automation, I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to cook in my own kitchen again, make my own automations, my own workflows, things like that. And if you join a community, if you get a coach, if you invest some time in it, you cut out all the distractions. When you say, I'm going to go through this course, whether it's Chase's group or another group, you go through and say, I'm going to complete this course. You now have this ability where you now have the power to say, you know what? I have an idea. I'm going to build this thing because I want this thing to work. So like, I'm building like a health operation dashboard for myself because I find it fascinating. So I leveled the front end on the health stuff. I entered in the back end on stuff, and I'm bringing in my Whoop API so I can see my own health and track my own scores because it's fun. And it's a really empowering time to be able to use these core skill sets that all of a sudden, instead of me hoping that some other SaaS company built this, or I'm try to enroll a CTO on this type of things, 3 months, 6 months into this type of process, you now have the ability to close these deals. Because a lot of people, there's all these boomers, and no offense to any boomers out there, but there's people that don't want to learn these new skills. The older you get, the less likely you are to adopt new skills. And in this rapidly evolving space, if you stopped bringing on new skills from the last 3 years, if you refuse to do skill generation, you're going to be in an older company that is at a certain pace. And if you are willing to put in that time and energy in the last 6 months, you have the ability to step into that kind of company that won't adopt the new skills and then just leverage your skills, AKA give you money, so that you can then bring that into a company. And the only way, not the only way, one of the most beneficial ways to do that is by putting content online, showcasing your skill sets and say, here's the cool things that I can do. Please give me money.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, a thing. You want a thing? Hire me. I'll give the thing to you. It's great.
Yeah, that's why it's such an interesting time because, yeah, both sides of the equation. On one, you can build anything without being technical, right? And then on the other side with social media, you can also market it and you can pull essentially the greatest marketing lever today for free as a person. And funny enough, you're going to get more traction as a person, as an individual, as a personal brand than a company is, right? That's a huge shift. And it's those two things have happened simultaneously, right? So you can market as one and you can build as one, and you don't have to be technical. You don't have to be a marketer. You don't need a ton of liquid capital to dump it into Google Ads. You can do this all organically, and you can build it with, right, an end-to-end subscription and a Claude Code. It's insane. It's insane.
You could download N8N, fair use, self-hosted, and start running it out the gate.
You can do this all for $0 in theory.
You could OBS it for $0. You could N8N for $0. There are a lot of things you can get up and running for next to nothing. The biggest thing is just the investment in time and the willingness to say you get the work you show. So if you make amazing work but you refuse to show it, that's an issue. If you show a bunch of stuff but you don't make anything valuable, that's another issue. So combining these two skill sets together could radically change your life. It's changed my life. It's changed Chase's life. And if you download this template from the template gallery today, it can change your life. So essentially, that's the whole purpose of this podcast. Chase, this has been great having you on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to let people know about before you tell them how to find your YouTube channel and your school group?
Oh, I think the biggest thing for people to know is that we've hammered this a bunch of times, but you really don't have to be technical. And then also just remember how early this is in this entire game. Think about ChatGPT came out, 3 years ago, GPT-3. That was in the grand scheme of things, that was yesterday. Like, it is so early in the game. Like, you need to get started, even if you feel overwhelmed on the technical side and on the marketing side, because again, you need both of those pieces of the equation if you want to succeed in the space and really turn it into a career. But it's totally doable. It's totally doable.
And if people want to find you?
Yeah, you can find me pretty much anywhere on social media. Biggest stuff is on YouTube. So if you just search for Chase AI, you'll find me there. I have a free school community. Virtually all my templates are free to download along with the guides. And I also do have a paid community if you're someone who's a little more serious about trying to start their own AI agency. But the workflow you saw today will be on the official N8N template library, where you can download it as well and get it up and running, help you with some content.
Chase, honor and pleasure, my friend. Much love. And I will see you on the other side. Take care now.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, Dylan.